Weencast, a Ween podcast with Shane and Rory.
Hey, what's up? This is Shane.
And this is Rory.
And this is Weencast. And we welcome you to a new episode.
Welcome, everybody. Happy New Year. Welcome to the new year, 2021.
Yeah, man.
Here's to hoping that it's significantly improved from 2020
Amen.
in terms of overall craptitude.
Amen. Happy New Year, everybody. This will be the first new show of 2021. And we are going back to the past again.
Back to 2001, one more time.
2001, back to a show from our youth. And we are going to talk about the science fair. It's July 28th, 2001 in...
Kintnersville.
Kintnersville? Is that really how you say it?
I think so.
Okay. Totally Bucks County. So basically in the vicinity of New Hope. Close enough to New Hope. Let's leave it at that.
I believe a little bit further north, a bit closer to Easton, but Bucks County.
What's up, Ween heads? It's Travis from West Brandywine Woodworks here. I'm back with an exclusive offer for Weencast listeners only. As you know, West Brandywine Woodworks creates handmade items for the home, and I would like to extend a 10% discount on all orders and free shipping on all cutting board and serving tray purchases over $100. Just mention Weencast when you place your order. It's that simple. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Don't forget to mention Weencast for your 10% off and free shipping on board orders over $100. And as an added bonus, I'll even hand deliver to you if you're within 30 miles of the shop. For quality you can depend on, come to West Brandywine Woodworks and mention Weencast. Boognish lives!
So this was a show that, Rory, you didn't make it to this one.
No, dude, what a bummer, because we just had the trade wins a couple episodes ago, and I couldn't make that one. And then this is yet another show I couldn't make. Long story short, I had just gotten a job at this gas station. And I had moved in with you. We were living together for a few months at that time.
Right.
And so I just had gotten this new job in this new, back in a new town, basically, right? And so I kind of, like, at first was like, hey, I don't want to be, like, asking for a day off, like, the first day I'm there. So I totally regret it because it was a shitty job that, like, wasn't, like, worth my time. But, it was like a gas station in the ghetto.
Well,
so I regret, like, not, like, asking for the day off to go to the show.
That's a very adult thing to do, is like, these are the days I won't be here. Like, I'm telling you this now. The other thing that I kind of realized when I look back on things is, like, I don't know that we had even really planned to go to this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't remember, but we could have basically, like, sprung this, like, the day before and just been like, we're fucking going. And we might not have known that far in advance that you could have said, like, okay, look, we're definitely going to be out of town, like, this day. I can't work. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's true, too. I mean, I don't know. I just seem to remember that I just didn't want to impose upon a new job.
Right.
But you're right. I mean, we're only one county over, so, this would have been just a quick little jaunt, there and back again.
Yeah, what wound up happening is our friend Corey must have been home for the summer because him and I also hit up the Jimmy Wilson Group show in New Hope, which was in June of that same year.
Oh, yeah, just a little bit before this.
Right. So, he must have just been, like, bumming around for the summer, and him and I went to this, and he brought his girlfriend along, who was, her name was Lydia, and she was always really nice and cool to us and whatnot. But there's a few things that I just can't remember. Like, I don't think that there were, like, tickets to this ahead of time. I think it was just kind of one of those things where you just, like, showed up, and it might have even just been, like, okay, $20 for, like, the whole car or something. Like, however many are in your car, like, it doesn't matter. It's, it's like $25, $30 for, like, the whole car of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Or, like, $20 a head. Like, that's it. Like, no tickets in advance. No, like, No bullshit, because basically it was just kind of like a local music festival.
Yeah, it was like a low-key local festival.
Right.
Tell us about that.
So they called it the Science Fair, and we kind of put these details together in the last, few weeks. Well, I know a little bit about this, why it was called the Science Fair, from going to the show that day, but we put together a few little snippets and details and doing some research. So there was, and I think still is, a New Hope band called the Sound Scientists. Okay.
Once you are, you always will be. Sorry.
Of course, our good buddy Fred Moore. Shout out to Fred once again, because he's always our constant hookup for info.
Yeah, Fred. Rock and roll, Fred. Happy New Year, Fred.
Happy New Year to Fred. He knows a couple of the guys who are in that band, so we want to give a shout out to a couple of the dudes that we were sort of like keyed in on, which is Ian Kelly is the drummer, and Eli Ward is the bass player for the Sound Scientists. So it was kind of like their festival. And I think that those guys are, just like friends with Ween and whatnot. And it seems to me like they just kind of, hey, do you want to play this little, local festival that we're getting together and whatnot? It just kind of all like fell into place. It just kind of worked out. And, the Sound Scientists went on, and then Ween was the headliner after them.
So it was just the two bands?
No, there was other bands that were on like during the day before the Sound Scientists went on, but it was a real like low key, just kind of like real chill. So it was in like basically just like a park, like a campground type park. There was camping that you could stay the night.
Yeah, totally. People were able to camp for the night. That's cool.
We didn't wind up doing that. We wound up just coming home. I drove my car, which we've talked about in the past on a few episodes. It was a 1986 Plymouth Horizon.
Yeah, dude.
So I drove Corey and Lydia, and we basically just like, I don't remember exactly what time we got there, but it was still daylight and everything, and we just, hung out. It was this nice big open field. They had basically what was like a trailer stage. That was just like one of those things. It's just like a trailer that you like pull in, and then it kind of opens up like from the front. Like there's a big panel that comes out of the front, and there you can see that it's like a stage in the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see this on YouTube. There's a really sweet bootleg video that you can check out on YouTube of this whole show, if I'm not mistaken. At least the Ween part of the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, man, that was it. It was basically just like a local thing.
Just kind of threw it together.
Yeah, Fred had hooked us up with some information from Eli because he had texted back and forth with him and kind of threw me the text. So apparently Eli from the Sound Scientist put all of the expenses on his own personal credit card. Like
that's
whatever this stage costs to, rent for the night or whatever, and anything else that he had to pay for, just paid for it out of his own pocket on his own personal credit card.
That's awesome.
And supposedly the way that they were able to arrange this and everything, they made it a fundraiser for the local fire department. So I guess that's how they got permission from like the park, and I don't know if they had to get permission from like the local, cops or whatever. And yeah, so they raised money for the local fire company in putting on this show.
Well, I imagine you have permits and things that you need to put on a show, and then that was one of the agreements was that money you need to make it a benefit for the fire company.
Right. So, I mean, is that fucking baller or what? Is that fucking cool?
That's awesome, dude. That's like, the Ween world doing good to the world, and having a cool, like, Ween show and camping, adventure to boot,
Yeah, man.
It's a win-win.
Yeah. I mean, there's only really a handful of, I guess, like, Ween shows that are from, like, the New Hope area that didn't take place at John and Peter's. There's really only like a handful of them over the years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of them, and it's really kind of like an anomaly. Like they're there wasn't really any sort of like Ween festivals. I mean, this one isn't even really a Ween festival because someone else like put it on.
Mm-hmm.
Ween was just the headliner. So it never really like, it was never something that really like got off the ground to get, okay, well, they should do a Ween festival with like them and Urchin and like all of like the Ween guys. It never happened,
Mm-hmm.
This was pretty much the closest thing to it. If I'm not mistaken, if there's something else that went down over the years that I don't know about, please, someone, key us in on. But I think this is the closest thing too.
Yeah, dude. I mean, this show's, it's interesting because it's kind of a unique little show, for several reasons, and that's one of them. But you're right. I mean, in terms of the immediate New Hope area, it's typically John and Peter's. And then, and you have like a smattering of other places here and there from time to time. So that's just pretty awesome,
Yeah, man. So just a couple of memories from like before, the Ween part of the night from what I can remember. So like I said, they were, there was music basically for like the whole day, throughout the whole day. It was an open field where they had the stage, and then there was a big enough space for like the whole crowd. And during the day, it was a lot of people just like sitting on blankets and like, picnic chairs and, camping chairs and stuff like that. And then behind the space for the crowd, there was a line of like food trucks.
Mm-hmm.
So that was where you went to get, French fries and drinks and whatnot. And then behind that, I'm pretty sure was where like the camping grounds were.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really just like a low key, like very laid back kind of a thing. I do remember sitting there with Corey and Lydia and spotting Jeaner and Dave. This is during the day, just like out, like walking around and like talking to people and whatnot. And of course we didn't say anything. Corey was always good at, keeping me on like a leash when it came to, like, oh, don't bug him. Like, don't go up to him. Don't say anything. I wouldn't have, in my mind, I'm like flipping out. Like, it's fucking Jeaner. Like, go. But when I was with Corey, it was like, okay, well, I guess I can't, like,
I kind of wimp out on that stuff too, usually. I mean, except for one infamous time that we'll get to eventually, but...
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think, it was like, all right, well, I don't want to embarrass myself with, Corey will make fun of me, and I don't want, you know what I mean? It's like, keep your cool, so... The only other thing I can really remember is, I think before the sound scientist went on, I think maybe we had like blankets or camping chairs and stuff. We like walked back to the car because we're like, all right, let's take our stuff back to the car and then come back. And then like by that time, be ready to like get into the crowd and whatnot. And I remember walking back to the car, and there was a group of dudes like coming in to the campground as we were walking out. And there was a guy, as he's walking, he had like a guitar and he's just like playing. And he saw Lydia and just kind of like tapped her on the shoulder and was just like, hey, you want to sing a song with me? But just kind of kept walking. And we just kept walking. And all of us just laughing, like Corey and I just like laughing. And Lydia kind of being like thrown off guard, like no, thank you, or whatever. Just
the free spirits, man.
Yeah, right.
You got the festival show. You got a free spirits. Roaming the fields.
Yeah, and it's just like, no, you can't take one of our women, dude. Thank you.
So I was wondering. Well, first off, was it nighttime by the time the show was going, or was it daytime?
I think it was kind of like just getting to be like dusk when the sound scientists were on, and that was sort of like one of the other memories I have of them being like really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them saying to the crowd, like, hey, let's go. Like, time to get into it, or like time to get rowdy or something like that. And just everybody like getting up, like off their blankets and like getting up off the grass and like, okay, let's get into like crowd formation.
Well, and that was my other question. How many people do you think, how big was this show?
I'd say probably, I don't know, 2,000 people or so. I don't, that's
Like pretty big.
yeah, I mean, I remember it being a pretty good sized crowd, but it couldn't have been any more. I would say
I mean, that's really big. That, like, if you're, damn.
something around there. So, because I'm pretty sure there was a good mix of like people that were staying over that night and then people that just came, and were just gonna like leave again.
Yeah.
So it's not like everyone was like staying the night.
Yeah. Nevertheless, that's a pretty big outdoor festival show for them, for sure, even if it's not quite that big.
Doing some other like research within the last few weeks, I think I read someone say that they were like bussed in. Like there was people that, must have had to park somewhere else.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then get like a ride into like the park. But from what I remember, we had like a really good parking space like right there, in the campground. And maybe it's because we got there early and we were there for, like the afternoon. And maybe they just ran out of parking spaces. I don't really remember, but it was definitely a pretty decent sized crowd. But by the time like, Ween came on,
Totally.
So I think that takes us about to the show, to the actual Ween show.
Yeah. Well,
would you like to read the set list?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and read the set list. All right, so they open up with Buckingham Green, Poop Ship Destroyer, and that's during a power outage, which we'll talk about more. The Spinal Meningitis, The Mollusk, Freedom of 76, Take Me Away, Puerto Rican Power, Even If You Don't, Roses Are Free, Bananas and Blow, Flutes of the Chi, Dr. Rock, I'm in the Mood to Move, I'll Be Your Johnny on the Spot, Ocean Man, Waving My Dick in the Wind, Mr. Richard Smoker, Exactly Where I'm At, Voodoo Lady, Mutilated Lips, Don't Sweat It, Captain Fantasy, Stroker Ace, LMYP, and then the encore, Buenas Tardes Amigo.
Nice.
Yeah, dude.
There's definitely a couple of highlights on, during this show, but I guess we should just start at the beginning.
Yeah, dude, and I think we would be remiss not to also mention the elephant in the room, and that is that this is another show without Glenn on the keyboard.
Right.
And they actually have a different keyboardist for this tour, Jason Fuller. So they actually have someone in Glenn's place for this summer tour, and this is the first show for the guy, Jason Fuller.
Right. So this is during like the Glenn hiatus. We had talked about on some of our past episodes a couple of the shows from the beginning of the year in 2001 where they just did a short little like mini tour with no keyboard at all. So Glenn was, not in the band at this time. And this show, Diener actually introduces Jason Fuller from Athens, Georgia.
Yes.
And this being his first show with Ween, his first concert with Ween.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an almost 4-month break from the last show, and the last show was actually Norva, which is our last episode. So we actually were at the show right before this one, and it was almost 4 months earlier though. So there was quite a break between the two tours, and then you got Jason Fuller show up.
Well, you can definitely tell that like 2001 is definitely sort of like an off year when you look at Brown Bass and you go back and you sift through some of like the tour dates and stuff, because there's not nearly as many shows. And I think they did that on purpose because the year 2000, I mean, they were just on tour like crazy. There are so many dates for the year of 2000. And then you look at 2001, and I mean, they did a decent amount of shows, but it's not nearly as many as the previous year.
Yeah.
Then you have the Glenn hiatus. So it's like, okay, they were probably like, well, should we find someone else and or should we just go on without him and just do like, the rock shit, or whatever. So there was probably a lot of that kind of thing going on, during that year, but there's not nearly as many shows for 2001, like in general.
Well, you got to imagine, so the hiatus goes from, the beginning of 2001 until February of 2002. So it's about 13 months. And, you gotta imagine that it kind of probably sprung up like kind of right before that Trade Winds tour, the early 2001 tour.
Right.
It must have kind of been a little bit abrupt, because I know that Jeaner, isn't he just, he's like, oh, Glenn quit the band, like he's like says shit like that.
Yeah.
During that tour, and they just like basically like work around it and try to avoid some of the songs that Glenn plays a big role in. And so it's interesting, because then that they must have been taking some time during that 4 months to evaluate that and to think, what are we going to do here?
Right.
Do we want to proceed as a 4-piece? Do we want to get another keyboardist? And I think they made the right decision in the sense that there's a good part of the repertoire that, you really want to have those keys on there, and especially in the sense of when there's jamming and stuff, that's always a welcome addition there. But there's a whole host of songs, especially on, like an album like White Pepper, where you really need a keyboard. And so I think that was the right move to decide, hey, we should bring someone in. Again, we don't really know. It's sort of mysterious, this hiatus. But, dude, it's funny because I was always aware of it, obviously, because I was at Norva, and he wasn't part of that. But I didn't realize that it was 13 months. I guess in my head, I thought it was just sort of like a few months.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you go back and look at like the time frame of like how long it really was and stuff. And like, it wasn't until I went back and started listening to this show again that I even remembered like, oh yeah, there was another guy. You know what I mean? Like, I knew that, but I completely forgot. You know what I mean? Like, there was like a dude filling in on keyboard. Like, that's right.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting little, footnote in the Ween history, but it happened.
Totally. Yeah, it's like a whole evolution of like, first it's just no keyboard at all. And then they say, well, now we need to have a keyboardist,
Well, I mean, certainly by that time, like, there are just too many songs.
Yeah.
That they were probably thinking like, well, it's not going to fly with no keyboard. There's too many songs by that point, like you were saying, from the White Pepper stuff especially.
And that was their latest stuff. And the Mollusk too, really.
Right. It's like, well, we can't just not play like all of those songs, and they're not going to work right with no keyboard.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Jason Fuller, I don't know too much about him, but he seems like I just kind of looked up like his bio. He does have a website. And I just kind of looked up his bio and just kind of did a little bit of reading on it. I mean, he seems very, well-traveled and an accomplished keyboard player. So shout out to him. And
yeah,
he certainly does a great job on this show.
Yeah, dude, I think he acquits himself well. I do wonder how much lead-in time he had, because sometimes I wonder if maybe he wasn't as familiar with the songs yet. So I would love to hear like a show from later in this tour to see how he evolves with the material. But he acquits himself well. I'll just say, like, out of respect, it just was like, Glenn really is a first-rate, Glenn's pretty legendary. So it's no offense to say that, it just wasn't quite Glenn,
Right.
If I may say so.
Yeah. Glenn's shoes are pretty tough to fill.
Yeah. But nevertheless, Fuller does a nice job, and so.
Yeah, man.
Like it's starting with like the Mollusk. Like there's a lot of like keys going on with that to do like some of those cool like, sea shanty vibes and stuff. And so he acquits himself pretty well. He was primarily part of a West Coast tour, and then they got back, and then the tour ends, and then they have like a smattering of shows at the end of the year that he's not a part of that are on the East Coast. But
right.
But yeah, dude. So let's talk some highlights here. Like early on, the whole Poop Ship Destroyer, Jeaner does it with the megaphone. There's like the monitors are out and like the power's out. And so that's pretty cool, like trying to like be like make the most of it.
Well, right off the bat, and the first song that they played was Buckingham Green, and they get like 2/3 of the way through, and you hear Aaron say, "Kirk, no monitors."
Oh, yeah.
So the monitors must have went out first, and then from what I remember, I think they must have had to power everything down and then turn the power back on for like the whole stage.
Yeah.
To get everything back on and working again.
Mm-hmm.
So from like both of the bootlegs, so there's the YouTube video, which I had mentioned, that's the whole show. And then also there's an audio recording. I'm pretty sure there is only really one. You can hear it on archive.org. It's a pretty good quality bootleg. But both of those recordings, they have some of that break where the power was out, like cut out.
Yeah.
So, and it makes total sense because it's like nothing is happening for a decent, chunk of that.
Well, how long do you think that was?
Probably like 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think it was that long, but I think they powered everything down. So Jeter gets on the microphone and he's just like, "Hey, like we lost power, like we're getting it turned back on," and then just busts into Poop Ship. And then is doing, after he does like a couple of verses of Poop Ship, he just turns the megaphone on to the siren. So it's like for like, I don't know, 2 minutes you just hear, "Woo!" So it's like, okay, well, got to do something. You know what I mean? So that's how Poop Ship gets in there. It's just him on the megaphone, no power, just him on into the megaphone, into the crowd. That's it.
Yeah, dude.
So even on like the good like audio recording of it, you can just barely hear him.
Yeah, dude. No, you can barely hear him. This show gets pretty brown. There's definitely some brownness going on for the Poop Ship.
Yeah. So then they get the power turned back on, and there's some good banter with this show too. Like, okay, let's go, like let's play. And then when they get the power turned back on, Diener says like, "Okay, this is our last song." It's like, oh, hilarious, dude. So then they bust into some regular tunes. You got some good standouts. I mean, Puerto Rican Power is always great.
That era, like that was getting some pretty good rotation back then, but that's always nice.
Yeah, I mean, even before that, when they play the Mollusk, it's after the Mollusk that Diener actually introduces Jason Fuller and said this is his first show.
Yeah.
With him, so that's really cool. So he gives him a shout out, and everybody, gives him a hand and everything.
Yeah, dude. They, I will say, they do Bananas and Blow, and that's an example of where like Fuller doesn't quite pull off the song as well as Glenn does. So that's like an example of a song that they weren't playing earlier in the year without Glenn, and so they're clearly bringing it back into the show rotation,
right?
Because now that they have a keyboard,
right.
But it's definitely times where it's like, oh, that's cool and all, dude, but like not quite. It's like you don't quite have it down. Like keep working on it.
Well, and then after Bananas and Blow, Flutes of the Chi.
Yeah, dude. And this is fantastic because, it's from White Pepper, so it's not all that old, right? And so this was like the 15th time that it was ever played. And so I think, is that the first time you ever heard it?
I'm pretty sure, and Diener even says before they start, like, "Oh, this is a song we don't do that much." I don't really understand that. Why don't they break it out more often? Because, I mean, I know everyone loves that song.
Yeah, dude, I don't know why they don't. And that's what's interesting is it's funny how he already says that when this is kind of just after the White Pepper, release era. So even the songs from White Pepper that have been played a lot still haven't been played a lot yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they've only been around for like a year and a half.
Right. It's pretty true.
So, in other words, when you're hearing that, you don't realize, like, that's going to be played 37 times ever. Like, that's pretty damn rare. Like, 37 times.
That's pretty rare. Yeah.
Out of like 1,000 shows or whatever. Like,
that's not a lot, man.
I mean, yeah, dude. So that's pretty fucking awesome. And I'm really jealous. I know I've heard Flutes of the Chi live, because I know that they played it at one of the reunion shows. But damn, dude, that's pretty cool.
So then after that, you got Dr. Rock. And then after that, I'm in the Mood to Move from fucking Godween Satan.
Which is another just like, rarity and a half.
So this is technically, when you look at Brown Bass, this is the first time it's ever been played.
Yeah, dude. That's amazing. Like, how can that be? That's amazing.
I mean, and Diener says that too. He's like, oh, this is a really old song. Like, this is so old, we got to go to the books. So I think they just have like the lyrics on paper, like in front of them. But he also mentions, before they start that Godween Satan is about to be re-released.
That's probably why they played it. That's funny.
So I think that they specifically were looking for something to bring back from Godween Satan for like that like summer tour, like the rest of that tour, because, and I didn't remember this until I went back and looked at the dates, the re-release of Godween Satan was on September 11th.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and that was the infamous 20th anniversary, even though it was only 11 years.
Right. So, but that was fucking September 11th. Can you believe that? I mean, did not,
dude, of course,
dawn on me at all. Wow. It's 2001.
Wow.
So that's fucked up, man. That's when the re-release of Godween Satan came out, was that year, and it was September 11th.
And now it's going to be 20 years again. They called it the 20th anniversary. And then in this next September, it's going to be the 20th anniversary of its release. Sorry, I was weaving a tapestry of something, but I don't know where I'm going anymore.
Well, I would say if it was, the supposed 20th year anniversary when it was released in 2001, I would say we might as well just call it the 50th anniversary at this point.
Yeah.
It's been 20 years since that, and
the Century Edition.
Yeah, right. Come on. I mean, just keep jumping ahead. It's not,
But yeah, dude, no, that makes perfect sense. And I remember buying that. That was definitely one I bought.
Oh yeah.
That re-release. It's a good re-release, and it's got a few bonus tracks on it.
Sure.
But the quality's great. The sound quality's really good.
Not to go on a sidebar here, but the real, tragedy is that's the only album that they ever did that with.
Yeah, dude, no, you're right.
The Pod is the one that really needed it. You know what I mean? Like, how come they never got around to re-releasing that? But I guess that's another topic.
Oh yeah, bare minimum they should re-release that.
But anyway, that's for another time. But yeah, this is supposedly the first time that they ever played I'm in the Mood to Move. And I mean, it is what it is. It's a very short little, ditty. But it's cool.
Yeah, dude. No, it's rare. 35 times ever. Most of those were probably for this tour. And but that's awesome, dude. No, that's great. I mean, right? That's like what you live for, is like these cool little snippets.
Little things like that. Yeah, man.
That make the show stand out, A Godween Satan song played for the first time.
I'm in the mood to whip your body with a tire iron. Coon dog, groundhog, poop long. 3 times, goddammit. Coon dog, groundhog, poop long. 2 times, goddammit. Oh, coon dog, groundhog, poop long. 1 time.
So then after that, you got some other regular tunes. Basically, I'll Be Your Johnny on the Spot, Ocean Man, Waving My Dick in the Wind, Mr. Richard Smoker, Exactly Where I'm At, Voodoo Lady, Mutilated Lips, and then Don't Sweat It. So
another good one.
I would say that would be the song. Like when I think back on like the science fair, that's immediately sort of like what I think of.
Yeah.
That's the night they played Don't Sweat It.
Dude, that's a great song. It's a great tune, too. And rare.
Great song. I mean, definitely has that pod, like, vibe to it. Very dark. Rare shit. I went back and looked at Brown Bass on this one. Now, it wasn't the first time it was ever played, but they did not play that song at all from 1998 to 2000.
Which definitely probably makes it the first time that you or I ever heard it then.
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, one of the memories that I have of that night, now I'm jumping ahead till, after the show, but I'll bring this up because it's really the only thing I can remember about, like, getting home. Like, I remember coming home, and you were home from work by the time that, I got back, and you were, like, still awake, or maybe you were, like, asleep on the sofa and, like, woke up as I, like, came in, and you're just like, what'd they play? And I was like, Don't Sweat It. And you were just like, oh, man, that's awesome. Because that's immediately, like, what I like, picked out from that night as far as, like, that was by far, the coolest thing of that night, in my opinion anyway.
No, dude, that's fantastic. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool. So, go back and listen to that cut from this show for sure.
Totes.
Because that was really cool. And then you got Captain Fantasy, which is always awesome. Also from the pod. Stroker Ace. And then LMLYP.
Yeah, dude. And LMLYP's cool because they had special guest jamming with them.
Michael Hampton.
Kid Funkadelic.
So it's Kid Funkadelic. And he basically comes in and they sort of let him lead LMLYP. They sort of let him do like an intro into LMLYP. So he's on guitar and also vocals. And this is definitely a unique version of LMLYP, which,
yeah, dude.
Like, I mean, for all the other shows that we had seen it's really just sort of like a vehicle for like each one of them to take a solo. This is just sort of like him doing the whole like beginning in a very like funkadelic way, and then the rest of them just kind of like wrap it up. It's not a very long version, but it's definitely different and it's definitely unique.
Oh, it still comes in as, like 17 minutes.
Right.
That includes like, downtime, probably leading into the song and stuff. I really think that's cool because we've talked in the past, obviously it's known, this isn't like a revelation, but the influence of funk and and that kind of music on Ween. And so to have a legend like Michael Hampton, of the George Clinton and the Parliament Funkadelic and in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, to have him like jamming at this show for that song.
Right.
It's pretty freaking like baller, right? Like that's pretty like every show has those elements that make it unique, and that's totally one of the highlights for this show for sure.
Totally. Yeah, and I mean, as far as I know, he's also just one of sort of like the invitational guys.
Yeah.
When we did the interview with Fred, he brings him up as being one of the guys who, I don't know if he's one of the guys who started the invitational, but he definitely took it over for a little while, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And I think even to this day, 20 years later, he's still considered one of the like New Hope guys, like part of the New Hope, music scene. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, dude. No, that's really cool, and it speaks to the influences of Ween and the respect that Ween gets, from the other people in the music world and community.
And then after LMLYP, Buenos Tardes Amigos, and that's the end of the night. There's a couple of cool moments, especially at the end there for Buenos Tardes, where they set off some fireworks.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you can hear, like, of course the crowd is just like, woo! Fireworks! So that's cool. And like, just throughout the whole night, like, Junior keeps bringing up, like, man, you're in for a fucked up night tonight, and like, we're rocking till the moon's coming up, and just like a lot of like references to like, yeah, everyone's gonna get fucked up tonight. You know, it's like, what the fuck, dude? What are you talking about? You know, but just the mood he was in, I guess. You know, so.
Well, you know, you got the festival. You're in Bucks County. It's like a local show.
Yeah.
Home turf. Good times had by all. You know, so one of the things, because of the power outage, that's kind of unfortunate because it ends up being a little bit of a short show. It comes into like about 2 hours and 15 minutes. And dude, they're chilling between every song. You know, like there's a lot of downtime during the actual show.
Right.
And then you get the sense that with that, you know, hey, if there wasn't a 15-minute long power outage, then the show, they would have been playing for all those 15 minutes. You know, and I also noticed, dude, like I counted them up, or I looked at Brown Bass, I should say more accurately. But they only played 25 songs, and most shows are closer to 30 or more than 30. So, you know, I feel like they totally kind of got screwed by that power outage. And so it kind of like, you know, I wonder what songs would have been played if they had that time back.
Yeah. And, you know, the other thing about that is, you know, this is a local show, like we said, and they probably had to pull the plug at like a certain time of night. You know, like, I think it went.
That's probably true.
You know, I think it went fairly late anyway, but. You know, I don't know if it was by midnight or, you know, I can't remember like what times like the show like started and ended, but they probably had to like be wrapped up, you know, the plug gets pulled at a certain time of night, like period.
Yeah.
You know?
No doubt.
So it's true. It's not the longest show. And the fact that it's a whole day, you know, of music, it's like, you know, you can't just have Ween play for fucking, you know, 4 hours or anything like that. Like that's not, you know, you gotta have the other guys, you know, get some stage time too.
Oh no, dude. And here's the thing. Even when it's a Ween show is a little short, it's still like more than 2 hours, you know, like it's still a pretty good, it's still a big chunk of music. It's not like they played for like 45-minute set and then like called it a night, you know?
Yeah, totally, man. I mean,
which, you know, sometimes at like a festival, if you have like a ton of headliners, you know, like a big festival, sometimes the bands do only go up there and play for like 45 minutes to like an hour or whatever.
Right. It's pretty true. Yeah. And, you know, this was a way, like, you know, like we said, laid back and local festival, but it wasn't like the kind of thing where it was just Ween plays and that's, you know, that's it. So they go on at, you know, whatever time they feel like and just play all night. It wasn't that kind of thing, you know? A really cool and unique kind of night, though.
Yeah, dude.
There's a couple of really cool quotes, like we had said, like, Jeter is just doing, like, crazy, like, banter and quotes, like, all night. At one point, he says, or after Spinal, he says, yeah, I live right down the road. So they mention about how they're, you know, they're from there and everything a few times. They say about how cool it is a bunch of times. Somebody must have threw something at Jeter because after, even if you don't, he says, that's cool, you hit me right in the head. And it's like, what? Somebody threw something at Jeter? Like, what the fuck? You know, what? I don't know what that's about, but that's kind of a cool little quote.
I will say, right after the mollusk, I don't know if this is meant to be like throwing a little bit of shade, but Jeter's totally just like, oh yeah, Jason Fuller, he's our new keyboard player. And I'm just wondering, like, shit, is that some shade throwing the way of Glenn?
Oh, shit.
You know what I mean? Like, this is our new keyboard player. He didn't say, like, oh, this guy's, you know, covering for Glenn. You know, this guy. You know, like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, he introduced him as, like, this is the keyboardist of Ween now.
Yeah. Yeah, he sure did.
Man, drama, dude. Drama. If anyone knows what's going on with that shit, like, hook us up, man. I'd love to, you know, I don't want to know, like, you know, if it's some, like, crazy, tragic shit or something, you know, if it's not my business. But, nevertheless, as a journalist, I really would love to get to the bottom of that.
We'll keep peeling that onion for sure.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to
Or
let
just
that
talking
go.
about peeling it. I don't know if we're ever going to actually get peeling.
And then towards the end of the show, Diener makes a quote where he says, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but I know a lot of you came from a long distance, and it's nice to have everybody in our area. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just gets that, like, we're just fucking around and having a good time kind of vibe throughout the whole night. And just a really, wasn't the greatest show I've seen over the years, but definitely a unique one and a lot of fun.
Yeah, dude, I would say, as far as musically, LMLYP makes it worth it because Michael Hampton's on that track.
Totally.
And then also you've got I'm in the Mood, is the first time ever. Flutes of the Chi continues to be really rare, and Don't Sweat It, was only played 68 times total ever. So, you got those like 4 songs. That's still like a nice crop of like, notable shit. Like, well done. Well done, Ween.
A couple of other random memories that I have while Ween was going on, before I forget. I know at one point, Corey just peed into like a Gatorade bottle. Like, he was just like standing like behind Lydia and was like right in front of me and was just like, okay, just stand still for a second. And just sort of like
block,
while he was just, yeah, right. Just, and just peed into like a bottle. And it's like, yeah, classy move, bro.
Total Corey move. But like, dude, when you're rocking out to a cool Ween show at a festival, you can't be bothered to go to the bathrooms. They're probably some stinky porta potties anyway.
I think I was probably just jealous because I didn't have the balls to pull that off. You know what I mean? Like, I was probably standing there having to piss like so bad, and just did.
You had tried and then like not been able to go, and just had your dick hanging out in like a soda bottle, like not being for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, right. Or somebody like
stage fright.
Or some sort of like, non-existent security would all of a sudden like appear out of nowhere and like bust my ass. You know what I mean?
And then next thing you know, your ass will be in like the county jail.
Right.
For peeing in public.
That would have been my luck,
Like no one else at the festival would get busted for anything, but you'd be in the fucking county jail for the lockup for peeing in public.
And the only other thing that I kind of remember and I still have as a memento from this show, I don't think there was any kind of merch that was sold, like a merch table or any, shirts or anything. But there was a guy from like that, time period that would make those patches. So on our Jimmy Wilson group conversation, I talked about it. There was a guy who would make like silkscreen patches on like bed sheets and just cut them up.
Mm-hmm.
So I had gotten one from the science fair and I still have it. So I'll post pictures of that on all of the socials and everything. But I have to admit, I have no memory of like that dude or like where I was when I got that from him.
Yeah.
At the Jimmy Wilson group show, I sort of remember us like standing on the sidewalk, like waiting to get in to the actual, bar at John and Peter's, and him just walking down the sidewalk and like just giving them out to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like the line of people. But where he was for the science fair and like how I got that from him, I have no memory of that happening.
It's mysterious. It's like the monkey paw on The Simpsons when when Homer turns to show them where he got the monkey paw, and and the store's not there anymore. It's just a wind.
And then he just says, "Oh no, wait, it was over there."
Yeah, you're right. You'll be sorry.
That's good. No, that's bad.
Sorry.
But no, man, I mean, and I still have it to this day. I just got it out earlier tonight to take a picture of it, and I still have the fucking thing.
That's cool, dude. Yeah, we'll post that shit up, and it looks sweet, dude. It's awesome. Blast from the past.
Hey, shout out to the dude who made those patches. And another random memory is I think I can kind of picture like what that guy looked like. And I think I might have ran into him at one of the shows, like the year after this or whatever, and asked him about the patches. Because I think he was making shirts by that point. I was like, oh yeah, you're the guy who used to make the patches. And he's like, oh yeah, right on. Like, like you remember that. And I'm going out on a limb on this one, but I think he might have been the one who first did like the Boognish like pirate, like the Boognish with the eye patch.
That's cool. If true, that's cool.
From what I remember, he was like, yeah, they're going to start making like the pirate shirts like themselves. Like Ween like picked up that like
Wow.
image and started like using it like officially.
So, hey, Guy, if you're out there, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you because we love the patches, and that's awesome.
Somebody hook us up with that guy. If you know that guy or you are that guy, I want to hear the story, man. I want, because that guy was definitely around for like a few years.
Yeah, dude, we could get you on the podcast or have a little interview, have a little chat with you.
Yeah, somebody hook us up with that guy, and we'll do a better job of trying to find him for the next episode or something. But yeah, I still have that patch.
That's great. Well, yeah, because you had just gone to the Jimmy Wilson Group show just like a month and a half prior.
Right.
We did an episode for our Patreon, an exclusive episode for Patreon. So check that out, people. Check out our Patreon. Got all sorts of awesome exclusive content and shit that blow your mind, really. But yeah, so we had covered that last year. The Jimmy Wilson Group with the patch from that show, which is a pretty cool patch as well. And it makes me wonder if he moved on to shirts the next year. I wonder, what's he doing now? Is he doing like full suits? Is continuing to evolve? Is he doing like athletic jumpsuits now, like Ukrainians wear?
It's probably like one of those dudes on like the Etsy that's just like full on like Boognish, like everything, track suits and those big hats and everything. Yeah, man. I mean, the guy's probably a whole like cottage Ween industry.
That's cool.
But yeah, man. So that's the science fair.
Yeah, dude. Decent show. Some great highlights. I'm still, it's not one of it's not going to make the top 10 list. It's not going to make the top 5 list, but I still wish I was there, and some great highlights. So I'm sure you have great memories. Obviously you've been talking about them here.
I have to say, I remember feeling guilty that, you didn't come, but I also kind of remember thinking like, well, it'll be another one where, I'm up in the count over Rory.
Yeah, that's funny. No, you take an early lead, that I've struggled to catch up with like all along. Although, speaking of all that, this is our last show for 2001. So our next episode that we go back in time will be in 2002. And,
right.
And so there are going to be some shows that I go to that you don't. So I will have a chance to make amends. As Puck says in Midsummer's Night's Dream.
Looking forward to it, man.
But yeah, dude, awesome. The Science Fair, another one in the books.
Yeah, as Rory said, check us out on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Weencast podcast. Got some exclusive episodes on there. Write-ups, photos, a lot of cool little clips, audio clips and things. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. And everyone, thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, everybody, and Happy New Year once again. Here's to a better 2021.
Yeah. Rock and roll, everybody. Rock and roll.
All right. Peace out, everybody. Thanks.